Perfect. Thanks for joining today. Balance. Let's get started with some balance. But first, posture. Core, pull in the stomach. Right, shoulders back, stand tall. Make sure you're standing next to your chair. Now it depends on if you need two hands or one hand. Two hands, I would recommend facing the chair. If you're okay with one hand, then I would recommend having that chair to the side of your body. So, if you can, let go, but if not, no worries. Remember the core, remember your posture, a little bend in the knee. We've done this balancing exercise before. The challenge is trying to keep the foot, the leg in the air, keep the posture tall, and again, pull in the stomach, pull in the belly button. If you can, reach up towards the sky, come back down. If you're holding on to one chair, or if you're holding on with one arm, you can try reaching with just one arm. And if it's difficult for you to let go, then perhaps, and you're holding on with two hands, then perhaps you can just play with letting go one hand at a time, right? Kind of alternating. And so you're kind of working on letting go and releasing, but not for very long, just this quick exchange of the hands. Okay, other leg, same thing. So whatever you did on this leg is pretty much what you're duplicating, or on the previous leg is what you're duplicating on this leg. So whatever arm movement you were doing last exercise or the previous leg, whatever arm movement you were doing, go back to it, whether it was one hand, two hands, or you're alternating, lifting one at a time. See where you're at. Posture's tall, core's engaged, bring in the belly button. A little bend in the knee on the standing leg. It helps to have something to stare at, a focal point, on the ground or an object in front of you. It really does help to hone in on your focus and helps with your balance. Okay, relax, come down. So we did the hard thing first, which was balancing on one leg. Here's the next challenge. Okay, make sure you're close to whatever it is that you need to grab onto, or maybe you're holding onto it the whole time. Standing behind your chair, posture's tall. Feet are kind of close together. You can't really see in the picture, but I have at least, 3 to 4 inches in between my feet, in between the shoes. Start off with your hands holding on, posture's real tall, core's engaged, a little bend in your knees. Now, close your eyes. You're holding on to the object, right? Or your chair. And then if you feel ready, let go and try to maintain your balance with your eyes closed. Grab the chair when you feel like you need to grab it. You know your body best. Anticipate the body. Grab the chair as needed. But practice. It's almost like walking in the dark, right? You can't really see where you're going. You can, but you can't, right? You're just getting up to go to the bathroom. You're waking up out of a dream or a deep sleep. Still a little groggy. Can't see all that well, right? It's kind of being aware of your body without actually seeing anything. So you have to feel. You can feel your feet working, and keep working with your eyes, opening and closing, right? Open your eyes when you need to, regain your balance, kind of get your focus back, your center back, reestablish your posture if you need to, and then close your eyes again, and practice letting go of the chair if you can, and you can see how you kind of get a little wobbly. That's okay. Think about your core. Pull in the stomach. You'd be surprised what happens once you pull in the core and you close your eyes. You should feel that your body just kind of stabilizes right away. And you're not as wobbly. You still might move a little, you might shift a little. But it's minimal, hopefully. I mean, that's the goal. Pulling in the core, a little bend in your knee, and we're moving on. Moving on, moving on, moving on. Okay. So, we're going to work on what's called a step back lunge, a reverse lunge, so many different names. But we're going to start slow and progress and make it more challenging and challenging as we go through. So we're going to start from beginner and go to advanced. Okay, so standing behind the chair, make sure you have plenty of space behind you, okay? Plenty of room. And you're holding onto the chair the whole time. Don't let it go. Feet are in close. You're leaning forward. Legs are bent. You can see how I'm kind of leaning into my hands in the chair a little bit. Just easy. Step back. A good, comfortable step back. Plant the back foot. Toes down. Front leg is bent. Right, you're supported. Come back in. Switch. Come back in. Switch. So my back leg will extend out and straighten out. Right? Kick that leg back, balance a little bit, get the toes down, come in, switch legs. Come in, switch legs. And you continue to alternate, going back and forth. So this is the beginner challenge right here. Okay? Staying strong through the core, tight tummy, loading the heel on that front foot. Now, if you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can bring the back knee down a little bit. So now we're bending as we land. Before we weren't bending, we were just stepping back and extending that leg nice and straight. Now we're actually coming down. We're actually lunging down. In, other side, step back, lunge downward. In. Now the challenge is still trying to load the heel on the front foot. You're still holding onto the chair. Don't let it go. And so now you're really bending both legs, both knees. Keeping your balance and taking your time. Engaging your core. Do not rush through the move. Now, if you want to take it up a notch, we challenge the balance by removing one hand. And so this is the next level up, where you're only holding on with one hand. And of course, the last challenge is no hands, and you're still trying to lunge. Now, you can kind of blend some of these together, where if you have problems with the knees, and you can't quite bend as much, but your balance is great, you can release your hands from the chair and just do the step back, the very first move that we did, right? So this is an option too, where it kind of still challenges your balance, but saves your knees a little bit, or kind of protects your knees a little. So for this one, you want to hold it, you're leaning forward, hold your core in strong, and you're holding a majority of your weight over that front leg. You're not really shifting back too much. So there's so many different variations. Take a little breather. So many options to that one. It's a great move. It gives us a lot of strength to walk forward. It's a great exercise. We're going to continue to do that. So now you know what you're doing. Right? Take a little water break. For me and my coffee. Cheers. But take a little breather, and we're going to get into it again. Now, the ultimate challenge is adding weight. So, the most advanced challenge would be dumbbells. So I'm going to grab a pair. Now this is really challenging. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you anyway. Some of you are really strong and you're ready for it. Holding on to the dumbbell. Again, I'm going to blend in some variations, okay? But this is if you feel really comfortable without holding on to the chair. Okay, so if you're ready and you're not going to do this exercise with the dumbbells, you get into your routine or your exercise on your own, and I'm going to work with this one, and we're going to work together though, okay? So here we go. Here's how you step back and you do a lunge while holding on to dumbbells, bending that back knee, taking your time. Now, I didn't say this, but as you're holding on to the weights, remember your posture, shoulders back, flex your stomach, then move, then step backwards, and then forward. Really think about your core. Now, if you have problems with the knees, but you want to hold on to weight, same thing that I showed you earlier, where now you can lean into it. You're not holding on to anything other than the weight, alternating and just stepping back with a straight leg, switching legs every time. So options, let's go for it. Do what you can. I gave you a lot of options. Hopefully you found one that works for you. And just stay with the movement. Take your time. Make sure you get a good step backwards. 90 degrees in the front leg. 90 degrees in the back leg. Always feeling the weight on the heel of that front foot. Always. Load the heel on that front foot. No matter which variation you're doing, that front heel is always loaded with the majority of your weight. Just a few more. Almost there. Last one on each side. All right, moving on. Have a seat in your chair. Take a little breather. Relax. Moving on. Let's work on our core. Leaning back. Actually, first let's get real tall. Real tall, legs extended. We've done these before. Posture's real tall. Pulling the stomach. Nice and easy as you lean back. Now as you lean back, arms are out. Come back as far as you can. Hold it. Remember, if you're feeling back pain or lower lumbar discomfort, sit a little taller. Don't lean back as far. Okay, heels are down if you can. Legs are straight if you can. If it's tough, then you can bring the legs in a little. Bend the knees a little. So real big challenge here. Sitting close to the edge of the chair, leaning back as far as you can without back pain. Bring the arms up if you can. And you're holding it here. No movement, just holding. If it's tough with the arms up, you can bend the arms, holding your hands behind your head. Whatever works. Challenge that core. Remember to breathe. Don't hold your breath. Keep the heels down. Flex that stomach. And take a little breather. Should have really felt that in the core. Hopefully you didn't have any back pain. Remember, if you do, sit taller. Get more vertical with your torso, your spine. Right? Take a little pressure off the back. Think about your core a little bit more. Okay, are we ready? We're going to do those again, but with a little variation. So, Get into that same exact position you were just in. Going back as far as you can. Set up your legs, engage your core. Tighten up that stomach. Okay, now from here, if you can, get into your arm position. If arms are up, from here, you're holding the arms up, keeping them there. Now you can play with your arm positions. We talked about it. You can bend at the elbow. You can also just keep your hands out in front of you. That's totally fine too. Wherever you're at is wherever you're at. From here, one leg at a time, slow, coming up. Now if your leg is bent and your foot is in a little more, that's okay. You're still trying to pick up the knee, lifting the thigh. So work within your own range of motion, make it work for you. Again, you can still do these with your arms out in front, right? Your elbows bent. I feel like the elbows bent might be a little more challenging. It puts the weight behind your head or a little bit more on top of your body. Kind of adds more weight to the move. A little more challenging. With the hands behind your head. Interlacing your fingers. Almost there. 3, 2, and 1. Nice work. Let's move on. Grab one dumbbell and set up your body in front of the chair. One dumbbell in front of the chair. We're going to do some goblet squats. Right? Goblet. Trying to that goblet kind of glass, holding it. You're creating this kind of cup holder or cup of this, the goblet, right, in this, dumbbell position, and then of course the stem is the handle. So you're holding on to it. This is how I like to hold it, but you can also hold on to it horizontally. One hand grabbing each end of the dumbbell. Totally up to you, whatever feels good. Doesn't matter. They're both perfectly fine. We're going to sit all the way down, touch, stand all the way up. Now, if you can't sit all the way down, you do what you can. But remember to push your hips back, right? Load the heels, right? You want to pick up the toes up inside the shoe a little. If you're barefoot, lift the toes up and keep the foot down. Same thing. If you're wearing shoes, right, keep the foot down inside the shoe, but the toes can elevate and lift up. And that'll help you force the weight onto your heels. But it also challenges your balance. So think about your core when you do that, right? It kind of shifts you back a little bit. So think about your core. Nice and easy. Come down as far as you can. Come out of it. Easy. Let's do 2 more. Last one. Okay. One dumbbell. Continuing to work with that one dumbbell. We're going to do a one-arm swing. So, your feet are pretty wide. I'm going to give you a little bit of an angled view here. Feet are wide, bending forward from the hips. So we start slow. The challenge is trying to create that pendulum with the arm. I'm going to start real slow. So every time you start to come up with your torso, you start to raise the weight up. Every time you bend forward from the waist, you let that weight travel underneath your hips, in between the legs. Now think about your core. Pull in that stomach. Make sure you have a good, strong grip in your dumbbell or on the handle of your dumbbell. Squeezing that dumbbell real hard. Tight tummy. Bending the knees just a little. But we're doing a majority of the bending from the hips. They call it a hip hinge. Hinging from the hips. It's like you're bowing. Flat low back, tight, tight stomach. That is the key. It's a lot to remember, but try to not force the weight to move or stop. You're just kind of using the natural momentum of the swing to carry the weight up and down, back and forth. Switch hands, tight stomach, flex your core, bend forward from the waist. Now you're not bending forward too much, right? It's just a little bow forward. Not a big, big bow. Just a kind of quick little hinge at the hips. Feel the weight on the heels a little bit. Flex that stomach. Pull in that belly button. Couple more. Stay with it. Last one. And stop. Back to the squats. Okay? Get the weight up. Big deep breaths. Okay, breathe, breathe, breathe. Tighten up your core. Good posture. Shoulders are strong, holding on to that weight, either way, vertically or horizontally. Coming down and up. Remember to pick up the toes a little bit in your shoe. Keep the foot down, the feet, keep them flat on the floor. With the toes you can lift. Now shift your weight back onto your heels. Really flex the stomach, pull in that belly button, tighten up that core as you go up and down. And you really need that strength in the core at the bottom. Wherever your lowest point is, this is where you need the core the most to help you get up and to keep your balance as you get up. So really try to emphasize a strong core at the bottom of the move. Wherever that may be. If you're getting all the way down, great. If not, wherever it is. Halfway down, doesn't matter. Think about that core at the bottom. Let's do two more. Last one. Okay, back to the swings. So, remember the hip hinge. Your feet are pretty wide, right? Because you want to have that space for the weight to travel in between the legs. If your legs are in close, it's not going to work. Wide stance. Start your swinging. Strong core. Strong hand. Good grip. Strong kung fu grip on that handle. Squeeze that handle. Tight stomach. Bending forward from the waist. Just let that weight, momentum, do its own thing. And you're just kind of hinging and controlling it. You're manipulating the move through your hips. As you push out the hips, the weight comes down. As you push the hips forward, the weight comes up and forward. So your hips really dictate the pace and the control. Think about your core. Squeeze that hand. Almost there. A little bend in your knee is okay, but not a lot, right? We're not trying to squat. Not like the last one. Okay, switch hands. Go for it. Flexing the stomach, pulling in that core, tight, tight tummy, easy. A lot of bending from the waist, the hinge from the hips. Nice and controlled. Take your time, breathe. I know it's tough. 5, 4, but you're tough. 3, 2, and 1. Nice and easy. Let it slow down. And moving on. Let's work on our calves. Let's finish with our calves. So, use your chair or a wall, something tall. Because if you have a low chair and you're kind of bending forward a lot for this one, kind of might mess with your back a little. So if you can prevent it, great. So, feet about hip width apart, 5-6 inches apart. Hip width, meaning if you were to draw a straight line vertically from the side of your hip to the side of your ankle, I mean, it's like they're in alignment, right? Side hip, side of your ankle, it's just the ankle's right below your hip. That's one way to gauge hip width apart. Okay, calf raise. Heels now, lifting up. So we're digging the weight inward towards the big toe. So sometimes when we lift the heels, our ankles want to roll out. The feet want to roll out to the sides, the outside. Your challenge is trying to prevent that. And keeping the weight going inward towards the ball of the foot, the big bone by the big toe, just shifting all that weight inward is the challenge. Lifting as high as you can, holding for a brief moment at the top, just to get a good squeeze at the top. And you should start to feel something right in the back of those lower legs, right behind the shins, feeling those calves really work. And mind your posture on this one, right? Trying to stand tall. Still think about your core, because you're, for a brief moment, you are kind of in an unbalanced position, right? There's some instability there just for a little bit when you come up onto the toes. Sometimes we lose our balance going forward, which is okay. It happens. Just make the adjustment and then think about your core. Stand tall. We're just going to really try to burn out those calves. Stop if you need to, and then re-engage the exercise when you're ready. But the goal is to just really get a good pump in those calves. Very important for walking. This exercise is great for walking. It gives you ankle mobility, foot stability, strength. I mean, it's that whole lower leg. This is really a great exercise to do. And then we'll combat it with, or complement it with, toe raises. So now keep the heels down. And just think about raising the toes. So we're taking a break on the calves, lifting the toes up, and now we're getting the front part of our shin. Now when you do this, try not to let your hips pop out and then all of a sudden now you're bending forward. Try to keep your posture somewhat tall. It's okay if it shifts back a little. It's going to sway in your hips a little. That's okay. Again, think about your core, because for a brief moment you're unbalanced. Right? Hold on to something if you need it. But just try to keep those hips in somewhat. Don't let them shift back too much. Just a few more. 3, 2, and 1. Good job. That is it. Great work. Let's do a little stretching. In fact, before you sit, calves. Let's stretch out our calves real quick. One leg forward, one leg back. Both feet pointing straight ahead. Hands on the chair, kind of digging in, leaning in. Drive that back heel down. Have that back leg nice and straight. giving our calves a little bit of a relief from all that work we just did. Switch legs, same thing. Just trying to drive the heel down. Try to make sure that back foot is pointing straight ahead to the front. All right, have a seat. Let's work on the hips really quickly. Just a figure four, it's always a good one to do. Crossing that leg over on top, putting a little pressure on the inside part of that leg. We've done this one before. Should be pretty familiar with what position your legs should get into. Again, you're just going to feel it on that same side, on that hip, the same side of the leg that's up. Go to the other side. Same thing. Giving it a good push if we can. And then the last one for the shoulders. Okay, so you have a couple of options here. You can do it from the chair, you can do it from standing. I'm going to show you several, and you pick what's best for you. So, in a chair, you're going to have something that's taller than the backrest of your chair. So at least something that's eye height from your seated position. So from right here, I have a shelf that's right around my eye height. I'm just going to put my hands on top of that shelf and try to bring my head down in between my arms. So this is one option. Okay, and it helps with the stretching of bringing our hands above our head. The other option is standing. Hands are up, feet are wide, and from here you push out your hips and you bend forward. So again, if I were to do it on this, so you can see a good side view. So now that I'm standing, this is right around eye height, give or take. So I put my hands on there, back up my feet, bend my legs, bend forward from the hips, and try to bring the head down in between the arms. This really opens up your ribs, your shoulders, your lats, your latissimus dorsi, that big back muscle that wraps around our back, around the ribs and into our back. So this is a great stretch to do, especially if you have difficulty raising your arms above your head. Nice and easy coming out. You feel that kind of release through the chest, shoulders, and arms. And that's it, guys and girls. Bravo. Good work today. All done. Until next time.